am making this program about a war that's coming, like it's in the works, or it could happen tomorrow or the day after. Who knows? It's not gonna go away. It cannot be negotiated out. And this is a war that Iran will not start. And we have seen this many times. But it's a kind of war that Israel will start, and then it will be the end of Israel. Well, in let's look at this from a religious point of view. There is some prophecies from Prophet Muhammad. He goes on to say like this: in the end times, there'll be a lot of sources of information. There will be a lot of books. There will be a lot of analysis. People come in and talk about stuff. Uh, but there will be very few people that have actual knowledge that how things will shape or form. Uh, well, in the Islamic culture, there is actually two words for knowledge. One is called ilm al abdan, which means like the knowledge about physical sciences and the world, and you know kind of analysis that the ordinary people do, or say a political analyst or the military analyst would make such an analysis. Then there is another kind of knowledge that in the Islamic philosophy they call this ilm ladunni. It means like a kind of like a very deep spiritual and psychic kind of knowledge that very few people would possess those. And Prophet Muhammad says in the end times there'll be very few people that have something like that. And I believe that my prognostications or my prophecies or my predictions are really based on a kind of ilm ladunni, very deep kind of knowledge. And actually, I've had several psychic predictions, psychic visions of how Israel will end. And I sometimes wonder, why some of them haven't come true. And but let's move on with what Israel is planning to do. And kind of, it's like you want to jump over a barrier, and you just go back and kind of gather your strength like a tiger. You want to jump over the barrier, and you don't want to miss. You want to go over that, leap over that divide. I think that Israel, if it didn't strike other countries around it, if, for example, a week or 2 weeks before Israel come up with another technique of sending out these old F-14s, and they have some F-35s. I don't know how good they are. If there was a like 2 weeks or 3 weeks period that they didn't go hide on the passenger planes or go behind the mountain and shoot over the mountain, or uh, it, then most people they don't want war. Most Iranians they don't want war. The Syrians they will just kind of forget about them, and they'll drop out of news. They'll just kind of die initially as like kind of a death of irrelevance, and then all the countries around them, even the Palestinians, they are developing rapidly elec- uh, technologically, financially, in every sense of the word, the trade is going on. Even if they had to do the trades from under the tunnels, but Israel is there by itself and is like this hub. It's like a military base, and one of these days it's going to strike. It's going to send in this F-35. They'll find a way to jam the radar. They'll do some. They'll send in some rockets and stuff like that. And they will hit a site in Iran that Iran has been trying to a very long time to protect, and this will result in a very massive retaliation, something that many Israelis will just get killed. And this massive retaliation is it will not have a moral or a political backlash in the world for Iran or for Iran's allies. It will just go. The world is gonna just look at it and shrug their soldiers, their shoulders, and say, "Oh well, you shouldn't have struck them first." I mean, would there be anybody, any other country, after all that has been going on, all the wars that Israel has started, that's going to come around and blame Iran and the Iranians? I don't think there will be any other countries. But what I hope for is that the United States will join in, like throw a few rockets in. We need, as Iranian, we need to destroy all these bases, like that they have built all around Iran, in Qatar, in Bahrain, in UAE. We need just demolish them and then get rid of these little kingdoms, their Wahhabi crap. Uh, well, I, if Israel starts this war, it will be just totally false information that the nuclear program is actually a threat, and the threat hasn't happened yet. I mean, do you believe this? Do you believe that a country that has a large array of scientists, and they're pretty good scientists, they're pretty smart, uh, do you believe that they have no nukes? That after all these instigations and sanctions, all these provocations, some military, all the people that have gotten killed in Iranian borders and in wars that the West has initiated, after all these like terrorist attacks to our parliament and to our institutions, that the Iranians are just would be so stupid that they wouldn't have a whole spectrum of weapons, plus nuclear weapons, uh, plus rockets that can carry them to Israel. I don't believe that. I mean, I was born in Iran, I was raised in Iran, and I don't think Iranians are stupid. Less than other anything else you can imagine about Iran. I just don't think that this thing is really true, and this nuclear talks, or it ever meant anything. It, that there isn't at least 30 nukes, maybe more, in underground silos or places all over Iran that they cannot fly off. I don't believe that, and I don't also believe that Iran doesn't have weapons that that more than supersede anything that the nukes can do. I mean, we, We know we have ballistic missiles, cruise missiles. Many of them are very difficult to to track or intercept. Uh, we could destroy aircraft carriers. We could destroy all kinds of bases U.S. has, or the kinds of reports I read here and there. But I think that if I mean, I'm more inclined to just not make this video than to make this video, because I do want Israel to come around and do this attack. And then that will give us the moral high ground to completely demolish them, completely demolish Haifa, Tel Aviv, every single base that Israel has inside, every single base that the United States has outside of Israel, and that would be a problem solved. Not every problem that the world has could be geopolitical, is resolvable by peaceful ventures and analysts talking to each other. It's not. Sometimes military solutions for Israel is the right solution. Israel is a state that doesn't belong to there, and has been engaged in warfare with all its neighbors. I mean, you should sometimes listen to what diplomats say in UN, and every single diplomat comes out and tries to convince Israel to back out, get out of already occupied territories, stop mistreating Palestinians, building on occupied territory. So this has been going on for many years, like 70 years, 60 years, 40 years. So what's wrong? What's wrong with warfare when it changes the equation forever? And we need to change this equation. Now, there are many Israelis. They would say that, oh, we have nukes and it's the last resort, or we can do it. Well, other people have nukes too, and would you want to all your population killed? Use nukes, and then other people will use nukes, and then you will be just completely dead. Whereas Iran's weapons are distributed over a massive area, like almost the area of half the United States. How are you gonna defend yourself? Well, you can tell Israel is not like other countries, or their diplomats are not like other diplomats, because you see that like Syrian diplomat, or like say even Palestinian, they are open to suggestions that hey, we can make some kind of peaceful ventures, or make the war go away another year or two. It's inevitable, but hey, we can still discuss stuff, and you don't see like Palestinians flying their planes on a weekly basis going to Syria, into Haifa, into bomb those people out. You see sometimes there is attacks, but and this brings out to our discussion that Israel is just built for warfare, and this it will end someday, right? I mean, if you are doing just following a curve, you see that this curve is going this place. You don't have to be a genius to kind of figure out, hey, these guys, they are. Well, I think that there are so many and so much rockets and high precision rockets and ballistic missiles all over Israel, all over Lebanon, Syria, inside occupied territory, coming from Iran, coming from Iraq, coming from God knows where. That if Israel chooses to strike Iran's nuclear war, it will be a truly suicidal mission, and and they totally deserve it too. I was looking at this newspaper, older newspaper, and there, some Iranians were saying we have like these farms of underground rockets, ballistic missiles, and then another guy was saying that, hey, our hackers have found out where the home address of Zionist officers, high-ranking Zionist officers are. And so we got ballistic missiles for each one of them, each family. Like it's gonna just send it in, and well, then it's okay. This will happen, and let's just be open to this possibility. And this is fine. Some nations they shouldn't exist. I had a video that well, psychic predictions for 2021. I talk about the coming extinctions, and one of these is this Jewish state, and many of its personnel, they're just gonna go extinct. One day you're gonna wake up and see that. Also, I think many of these mini little kingdoms or fascist states all around Iran, it's just, I think many of them are like hollow. They're more like coconut that has all the water has been sifted out or been sucked out, and just is like a shell. Uh, Many of the people inside are Iranians or Iranian descent or sympathetic to Iran, but there is this little sheikh is sitting on top. Well, thank you very much for being in my YouTube channel, and yeah, I have a lot of videos on scientific subjects. Do you really believe, like, if one of the lesser known scientists like Hassan, that he actually has mathematical physics models for physics of Mandela effect and black holes? Do you really believe that people like me are not able to construct the nuclear bomb, or like put it on the bomb on ballistic missile? I mean, the, how 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 much misinformation have you been feeding yourself? That's the big question, right? Thank you for being in my YouTube channel, and I believe that my analysis is superior to many analysts in many different corners of internet or on the media, and you should be proud of yourself that you went through this video and you understand what I'm telling you, and your intellect is matches to that level, and you comprehend what is actually happening. You should really sign up to get your own PhD. Thank you very much. Please leave comment and all that. Thanks.